There's only one attack plan that could make Iran shake more in its boots than the B-2 Spirit attack plan. And that one attack plan is the B-21 Mammoth strategic bomber attack plan. This would be the use of the B-21 prior to it being officially combat coded and at officially combat coded squadrons in the US Air Force, since it hasn't been officially released at the time of this video being produced. But it has made multiple test flights, including its first test flight in 2003, and then more public footage and videos of the B-21 in 2004. So it's said that in the Western United States, the B-21 is flying relatively consistently. So what does that mean? Likely it means weapons testing, which we'll get to in a second. We'll talk about the different tech that is likely being dropped out of the B-21, including some bonus tech that you might not be expecting. And then we'll talk about the interoperability of the B-21 with the Navy and also UAVs, RPAs, and whether or not the B-21 itself would be fielded as an RPA, and what would be the advantage to that. When it comes to my time in the Air Force, I flew the F-15E in combat fighter squadrons and then the F-16 on the Thunderbirds, but I really noticed the strategic importance of deterrence while flying the F-15E in combat. So having F-15E, F-22, F-35, B-2 combat squadrons in specific locations around the world gives strategic deterrence when specific talks are happening. In the time of this video, you probably know that there are heated Iranian nuclear deal talks happening between Iran and the Trump administration. So what does that mean? It means deterrence is the #1 factor to deciding likely how the negotiations will go. When I deployed into combat, even though we had other missions, part of our mission was deterrence for Iran. Iran knows that when F-15Es are in certain parts of the world, it doesn't take much for them to just divert course, change and shift their mission focus to an Iran scenario that they don't want to happen. So right now in the Middle East, we've got the Carl Vinson, we've got the Harry Truman. Those are both carrier strike groups with more than 90 aircraft each. And then we've got a smattering of US Air Force bases in the region that are operating F-15Es, A-10s, F-16s, and F-35s. Not to mention Diego Garcia, which is a joint UK and US military base that houses currently the B-2 bomber. Where would the B-21s launch from? Well, interestingly enough, it's said that most of the B-21s right now are still in the test phase. That means that they are located in the Western United States, specifically at a small little airport run by Northrop Grumman. This is the test and evaluation center for Northrop Grumman for the B-21. And it's said that sightings of the B-21 can be seen relatively regularly around this small air patch. So what does that mean? It means that the B-21 is likely more ready for combat than we actually know. It's also said to be operating out of Edwards Air Force Base in California, which is an Air Force base with a massive runway and a history of being extremely good at testing aircraft. What that means to me is testing out the beeps and squeaks, the small details of the interoperability, the connection of the B-21 to certain systems that give it SA, situational awareness of the battlefield. But I guarantee real time, the pilots that are flying this thing, the test pilots, and the squadrons where this B-21 is going to go to are keeping their finger on the pulse of these nuclear talks. Because if for some reason, let's say in a scenario where the B-2 was detected, or the engagements became so large, the air war became so big, the ground war became so big that we needed more assets to drop bunker buster bombs on Iran's underground cities. Their military essentially lives in underground cities that can go down to more than 500 feet. So if extra assets were needed over and above the 6 or 7 B-2s that are rumored to be at Diego Garcia, and then the roughly 13 extra B-2s that are at Whiteman Air Force Base, let's say in a crazy scenario where we needed more metal, they needed to put more bunker buster bombs, these 30,000 pound bombs, and other bombs that the B-2 and the B-21 are capable of carrying on target, what would happen? Well, the B-21s could be activated relatively quickly. They're not slated to be activated in the next few months, but there's talks that they could be activated as soon as the end of next year or early 2026. But why would they involve the B-21? Why would they involve an aircraft that hasn't seen any combat yet and isn't completely ready for the battlefield Well, it would likely involve some sort of advancement in enemy air defenses that would make sending in fourth generation fighters not ideal. The B-2 is going to be relatively invisible to enemy radars, even S-300s and extremely advanced Russian missile defense systems that Iran has acquired. But let's say for some reason these missile defense systems were able to see 5th gen F-35s, F-22s, which is highly unlikely. But at the end of the day, you wouldn't want to risk losing any of those assets. So what would you do? You would make sure that you had the most stealth capability in theater as you could possibly get. So what is the most stealth jet likely that the US has right now? The F-47, baby. Yeah, and you can check out a video on that thing. However, the fact that this is probably still in the demonstrator phase with just a couple demonstrators being made and the final project not fully being decided on yet, but you can see me talk about that in a full F-47 video, shameless plug. Check that out after this video. But ultimately, you would want assets that could do what the B-2 is doing. So that would mean bring in the Mammoth attack plan from the B-21. And here's how it would go down. So it's likely that there will be B-21 variants that are unmanned. So what does that mean? It means higher altitudes and the ability for this thing to stay airborne longer. Without sensitive life support equipment, you could have more fuel and you could also ignore the altitudes that you could fly to in order to preserve human life. That means 70,000 foot plus, and getting up there at that altitude, this thing would just sip gas. So it's said that the B-21 would have around a 6,000-mile radius, potentially dropping that down a little bit lower if it's dropping a lot of bombs, but let's just say a 5,000-mile combat radius. That's going to be plenty of room to essentially execute any mission around the globe and then land back in the United States or at an allied base somewhere in Europe, like Lakenheath. At the end of the day, the B-21 being unmanned might make it the #1 choice to execute attacks in Iran. And that Mammoth attack plan would include dropping bombs from extremely high altitudes that we probably haven't even seen before. It might even get up to altitudes where surface-to-air missiles, even if they were advanced enough to detect the B-21, would have no chance of reaching up and touching it because the rocket fuel and the boosters in those surface-to-air missiles just aren't advanced. They're just not prepared and prepped to go up as high as potentially an unmanned B-21 could fly. Also, the B-21 is rumored to have cloud technology. So what does that mean? To me, it means that different weapon cells from around the globe, US strategic commands, could basically confer real time to change the targeting package, to change the different coordinates in the GPS weapons, and could have more of a collaborative chat on a cloud-based structure to understand how to shape the battlefield real time based on what is being done to the underground cities in Iran. Let's say they're more effective than they thought they were, well then maybe they can focus their strategic attack on surface-to-air missile sites instead of continuously bombarding a problem that's already been fixed with the underground tunnels being shut off or whatever the case may be with these underground cities not being able to operate. In that case, you wouldn't want to waste weapons. So if you could just reprogram these bombs real time from central command or other commands scattered throughout the globe, now you have the ability to truly shape the battlefield in real time and achieve your strategic objectives. Or hey, who knows? Maybe you're executing real-time negotiations as these B-21s are airborne, and it's essentially like, hey, make my day. If you want to not negotiate, then there's a chance that real-time we can change this targeting package to a place that you really might not want it to go. Additionally, it said the maintenance costs of the B-21 are going to be extremely lowered from the costs of the B-2, so executing attacks on objectives in Iran that might not make sense from an economic perspective, like a B-2 getting airborne and let's say spending $100,000 plus per flight hour. If the B-21 can do it for somewhere around $40,000 per flight hour, now you're winning the economic advantage when it comes to warfare. And that is a strategic tenet of warfare that I've learned through different military schools, different doctrine schools with the US Air Force. We studied a lot of air superiority, and then we also studied the principle of economic warfare. So the ability to have a jet, a stealth jet as good as the B-21 up there, making it rain at a cost that is 1/4 the cost of the B-2 is just going to strategically give the advantage to the United States. And Iran knows that. And it might mean Iran thinks, well, this isn't going to cost them as much as the B-2. Maybe there's a chance that they think of using this more, and maybe we should negotiate with them better, knowing that this B-21 Mammoth attack strategy could be in their quiver and could be one of the arrows that they pull out and let fly our way. And as you all know, the Ayatollah supposedly loves this channel. He subscribes, so should you. And it's worth me saying that the B-21's name is the B-21 Raider. And the B-21 Raider is named after the Doolittle Raiders that executed the first attacks against the Japanese mainland in 1942. These were the airmen with the biggest cojones in the fleet at the time. They went up against a problem that they knew they might not come back from, and they essentially shifted the tide of the war in the Pacific, and they inspired generations of airmen with their ability to be calm, cool, and collected under pressure. So I think it's beautiful that the B-21 Raider is named the Raider because of its ability to get up, interoperate with different drones, be an unmanned platform, carry a 30,000-pound bunker buster bomb, the GBU-57. This can be loaded into the B-21 as well. So the fact that it can do it with a smaller platform, a more fuel-efficient platform, and a platform that strikes fear into the heart of Iran and other regimes, the B-21 Mammoth attack plan is one of the best negotiating tactics, in my opinion, that the United States has. But as President Roosevelt once said, it's nice to walk softly but carry a big stick. And in this case, the B-21 is the biggest of sticks. The B-21 Mammoth attack plan is hopefully one that doesn't play out, but strategic deterrence of the B-21 cannot be understated. What do you guys think of the B-21 Raider? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you think about the strategic Mammoth attack plan for Iran, what that might look like. I'm excited you're here to check out these videos. I've got a lot coming your way with current events, keeping you updated, keeping you posted. Let me know what other videos you'd like to see. And hey, it turns out that only 11.4% of you are subscribed to the channel. I know a lot of you have been subscribing, so hopefully that number starts growing and I'll keep you updated as it does. But if you would subscribe to the channel, it would help me grow this channel exponentially. And over the next few months, we could have over 1 million subscribers and I could do videos like this for you essentially every day. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Most of all, have a great day.